imagine.
We don't have the note taker. Nancy was supposed to be doing this.
Oh, I will do that. I've already started to fill this out for my own kind of just personal reference, so I will just keep going.
Okay, so
I forgot, Nancy did say last week she emailed and said she couldn't make it.
I
told
know
her-
Josh wasn't coming. Did you hear from any of the other?
I didn't hear from anybody else.
you heard from Josh and
I think you guys heard from Josh? I just heard from Nancy that she has a
Yeah.
scheduling conflict.
Josh can't make it tonight.
Yeah.
okay, so and then who else are we missing?
As and Tori and Max.
All right, so the agenda, we've now opened, we've been called to order. The minutes from June. Is there any corrections or additions or motions to accept at this point?
Motion to accept.
The minutes have been,
So
I want to get it's been motion that we accept the minutes, it's been second. All those in favor, wave your hand.
Question, since I wasn't here last month, am I allowed to
yes,
validate?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
I also accept them then.
Make sure they're comprehensible, like readable.
Okay, great.
That's great. All right. The Portsmouth Middle School for several years has been doing a project. And somebody put that on the agenda, want to speak to it?
well, last month, very close to meeting time, we got a packet of proposals from middle school students. So this time we had time to review them. I don't know if we want to have any discussion, but we do need to follow up because it was referred to our committee by the city council. We can do a note of thanks. We invited them to this meeting, but it's summertime, so it was hard to get anyone to come.
Was there a specific action they were proposing or just for us to review and comment?
Well, the city council asked us to review them, and I think we've done that by now. All the projects, among the projects, Chris Rose and Nicole Stonebrook, the teachers, chose the 6 most impactful, and 3 were the Jones Ave landfill, which the city is so far moving ahead on. But there was also the Hanover parking garage roof, Portsmouth Middle School roofs, and panels at community campus. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny reading, like, I forget like what my like writing is like in 8th grade. And then you read some of these proposals and like funny like little quips and like just normal conversational like sentences that they'd say out loud, they like write. It's really like comical reading some of these, like just how like, not comical, but like they're so passionate. They put all these funny like relatable words in there that was hilarious. But they were really good, the
Yeah.
Jones Ave.
Right.
All
Community
researched out of background data and everything.
And
Can
with
we-
revision backing them up, that was really neat that they had that.
Can we invite them sometime when they're able to come to give us a?
Yeah, we should probably do something in the interim because
Yeah.
it wouldn't be till September or October they'd be able to come. So Jess and I could draft a thank you note to the teachers and ask them to thank the students. And then would it be copied to the city council?
I think so. It might, with the letter that Chris Rose wrote at the beginning of the
Yeah.
packet, it almost seemed like he wanted us to talk to his students in terms of like giving them feedback if we have any. And they did emphasize, how neighboring towns are doing a lot with their schools in terms of solar arrays. So
So we could say in the letter, and we hope you and your students would be able to join us in the fall.
yeah, I think it would be nice to mention, hey, we're pursuing some CIP items if you
Yeah.
want to learn more about them.
And they're gonna be, if these were 8th graders and they're moving into the high school set anyway, so they could be on the committee, it would be, I think. Again, I don't necessarily know if this was just for us to sort of like give the thumbs up to the 8th graders that they did a good job. or if this is like a tool that we can use, and, you know, it was referred to us by the city council, can we send like a summary back, like here were the highlighted sites, here were the benefits that the eighth graders identified. Here's the comparison to other towns that the eighth graders identified, like a 1 or 2 paragraph, you referred this to us. We think Jones Ave should definitely happen, and now sort of those, keep the momentum going.
We appreciate the research. It's a topic this committee has been
Yeah.
interested in, and we look forward to exchanging ideas with you. And when we can schedule it, I know maybe the teachers can help with the scheduling.
And the other thing to make note of is that the eighth graders are passionate about this stuff. I mean, this is what young kids are thinking about. You know, how can we be a leader in sustainable energy compared to other towns?
They are gonna be out of the middle
Well
school.
understood, yeah.
Yeah, so just like the teachers might not have
Yeah.
direct face-to-face access to them.
Right.
So I'll also mention the city, the position on this committee for
Yeah.
someone from the high school.
Yeah.
If they want to join us or just sit in on this committee. And I should mention that just reading through these made me think that we should add a CIP request to have the city do an inventory of all the city sites, including community campus, the library, and evaluate there in terms of their solar capacity. So we'll be coming up to that when we get down the agenda, but I wanted to mention it. It's related, and we can mention that in the letter
Yeah.
to them.
I think if we could find a way to have these kids further engaged who are willing to be, I think that would be really powerful for us as a committee and for the city to see and for the students. My impression a little bit is that, you know, they do all this work and they submit all this stuff and they kind of get a thank you for their efforts and it gets put on a shelf.
Yeah.
And I think if we could actually make them feel like they are engaged in the process and, you know, because like you all said, a lot of what they wrote about is sort of already starting to happen. So if we could connect those dots a little bit better,
Yeah,
I feel like that would be.
so I could even say, I mean, it's true that as a result of reading your proposals, I've asked the city to do a capital budget amount to do a solar inventory on city properties. Okay.
To build on what you're saying, somehow in the letter, we could say it was encouraging for us to read this. These are issues we discuss, and your input in letters are strong statements, but that's one item. And we've had student input actually on the committee and some way massage in the invitation and build in that one of the strongest sustainability things that we have is to build multi-generational views on topics. And that I don't want to lose it. I had something that I thought was good, but it slipped me. But I think the essence is that they are given an invitation and an encouragement that they see. Oh, I wanted to pick up when you said we want to extend to the community. One way we can extend to the community is through the schools and representatives coming back to the schools. That's the opportunity that being on this committee does, to
Yeah.
make that connection, community. So that's what I think is important.
Having them appear at CIP budget hearings and
Yeah.
offer their perspective individually or collectively would be very compelling. Also, as you say, they're eighth graders and hopefully they'll build on that interest and join the ECHO club and maybe even take an interest in the committee.
Okay, And do you need anything else, Effie, or you guys all set with that?
I think we're all set.
Okay, so that was the middle school. Now we're down to 4. And community engagement. And the conversation, so a lot to be said about that. Who wants to start with it?
Sure. We've finalized the agenda for next week. And it sounds like we'll have some people from Portsmouth Climate Action helping to facilitate. So Bert, Bill, Fred, and Robin. Robin. And myself will be there. Hour and a half of kind of hands-on workshop of Bright Action and then relating it to the climate action plan. Sort of how important community engagement is and, reducing your emissions as a community. And working on slides right now for that, but should be ready early next week for us to share and get ready for, but I think we got the timing down, so
What day and time is it?
it's next Thursday night.
Next Thursday night.
6:30 to 8 p.m.
Thank you.
at the Levinson Room in the library.
This is on Facebook that you can get and forward it to other people. That's the power of having a committee that has a city connection. And they designed this and now have this out.
Yeah, so if anybody's on the City Hall Portsmouth, New Hampshire Facebook page, there's an event that's posted, and then they also kind of reposted a little blurb about it. So hopefully we can get some people to reshare that or at least join it or see that it's there. And it piques their interest.
Does the city have a social media?
Yeah, just the Facebook. Yeah, I don't think they have Instagram or any of that.
It's been prominent in the city's weekly newsletter.
Yeah, oh yeah, the last 3 weeks, I think. And I think he's gonna do one more next week too. Right. Just to hammer it home.
So bring your friends.
Yeah. And cookies. So we need snacks.
Friends and cookies.
Anything else on the community conversation?
I think we talked a bit, Kate joined us last Wednesday on the Portsmouth Climate Action, and we talked a bit about a future community conversation, maybe after city council presentation that focuses on the cap and implementation.
Are you thinking like fall or?
Fall.
Yeah. Okay.
In addition to the market or the master plan. One.
The community climate conversation and the master plan has its own separate community engagement, right?
Oh, it does, yeah. I didn't know if we talked about that last month, if
Yeah.
there was a plan for a different
Yeah,
community. climate.
September or October.
That would be much broader, but we would want to make sure that the climate action plan is continued, considered in substantial ways. Do you know what the schedule is for community engagement for that? Is fall when they'll be doing?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they've posted anything specifically yet, but they're working on a fall schedule.
So the two should be coordinated.
Yeah, I think that's,
I assume that's a pretty big undertaking with the consultants' support.
see what we. They get a report back on it. Joint conversation on the cap and the master plan.
Anything else about that? We did find out that there will be refreshments. Somebody said they would bring refreshments, so. All right, then we'll move on to item 5.
No, the other community engagement stuff.
Skip the
There's the
eco day.
NBC.
Oh, gee, you can read and that's a small book.
Well, it's much bigger print up on the screen, so
Yeah,
it's a
zoomed
bit
in.
easier.
Community conversation update. Actually, thank you, Colleen, because we thought you weren't at the meeting and we wanted to know if there's anything further on plastics, a conversation, or does anybody else have any other? We're talking about what's
Other
on-
conversations?
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry, I've not been present very much at PCA lately, so I I knew this one was happening in the master plan and the cap conversation, and I didn't really know what the schedule was looking like much past that, so I hadn't thought to think about it. I mean, I feel like you can always have a conversation about plastic. There's always news and things to learn and aspects of that to talk about. There's not a shortage by any means, but it's not something, but I can offer, which sort of segues into B, the Eco Day at Farmers Market. So Karen Barndollar, myself, and Fred all tabled at last Saturday's Farmers Market in honor of Eco Month that is happening as part of the market. And we had a mix of things. Kate provided us some stuff from the New Hampshire Network and about the upcoming conversation, and postcards just about Portsmouth Climate Future and the cap itself. And then we also had some information about composting, because that's something Karen has been working on for a really long time, and then some information about plastic. And just as a very casual start to learn about public support interest, kind of where people are at, we had two different, I don't know if they are petitions per se, but just more questions of asking, would you be interested in seeing curbside composting citywide? And would you be interested in seeing Portsmouth enact a plastic bag ban? And we probably got 20-ish, I forget, I counted and now I forget the number, supporting the compost, and 35-ish people supporting the plastic bag ban, which is a start, but and everybody at the table was receptive. I'm sure Fred could add some more things, but it was interesting when we presented those two things of, would you be interested, you know, again, it's kind of a little bit of talking to the choir, but everybody was very much like, yes, of course, why wouldn't we have this in our city? So that was kind of encouraging as well to see that response. So.
Right, anything?
Nothing to add, really, no.
Can I move to other?
Yeah.
Yes, awesome. I sent you a spreadsheet at the beginning of the meeting, but I see you don't have your computer. So I was wondering if you could send me the Zoom link and then I can just share
Mhm.
the spreadsheet up there.
Yeah, it's on the agenda for tonight.
Awesome. Technology.
While you're doing that, I saw on the whole story, Billie Eilish. Did anybody see that? Billie Eilish, mother
Remember the
is
singer?
a strong sustainability advocate. I never knew that. And a reason I'm thinking about the farmer's market, she has made her concert, the Lollapalooza or some, where hundreds of thousands, whatever it is, 90% solar power. And she had eliminated plastic, and they had the machines there to refill the water containers. And so I said, but then she said, we need to go a step further. Just raising money, just doing it here isn't enough. And so then she had booths at the back where people who could sign up to do something when they went home. And I thought, what an incredible, I didn't even know anything about it. I didn't know that. And she's doing this worldwide on all of her concerts, and they have the dance floor that's generating the, so that's pretty inspirational, I thought. And I thought, well, what would that say for the farmer's market? So, anyway.
Sustainability fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got a short announcement on other. Portsmouth Smart Growth has disbanded after many years. And as part of their disbanding, according to their bylaws, they distribute their treasury to like-minded nonprofits. And Seacoast Climate Action Now was one of the recipients with funds for the sustainability fair. The other one was Sabre. Seacoast area bike riders.
It was an outstanding organization in its time.
Isn't it amazing how things come and go? And that's very encouraging that it can take in. And I bet you a lot of the people involved with that are now involved with some of the other things, you know.
One of their last acts was co-sponsoring one of our community conversations. It's the first one, actually. The first
That's great.
Wonderful. Okay, so first thing, the Power BI Climate Action Plan dashboard has been down. And
Yeah. it has.
okay, just do you know when that's gonna come back up?
I've tried many troubleshooting solutions,
Okay.
but I'm feeling confident.
Awesome.
What's
Never
it
mind.
called? Cat.
The dashboard, like the interactive climate action plan on the city's website, is down.
It was part of VHB's like consultant
Yeah.
deal where they made us a Power BI dashboard and it was working great. And recently Microsoft did this really stupid thing where now you can only see dashboards
You're,
if
like,
you have a
logged in.
Power BI account.
Yeah.
So even the public can't see them, which is so dumb because half of these dashboards are public dashboards.
Yeah.
So trying to find a workaround.
Okay, just let me know because like
Yeah.
I send it out to people regularly and I'm
Oh,
like, oh, it's not there.
Sorry.
Cool, yes.
Yeah.
So this is a stakeholder relationship management spreadsheet that I've been putting together for the committee. If you go over to details, I've basically just like, here are the things the committee is doing. That's me, the little purple button. So like advising and guiding, providing information, supporting environmental justice, and then the mechanisms by which we can be influencing stakeholders. So that's presenting to other committees, the community climate conversations, Bright Action, putting stuff on the city website. It's like, what are our mechanisms by which we can access other people? And then the SRM tab is sort of the center of focus. So basically what I have is like a list of all the different committees, and then also some city departments, some regional things, various neighborhood associations, nonprofits or not-for-profit orgs like the Chamber Collaborative and stuff, just essentially who are the stakeholders in Portsmouth and around Portsmouth, and with the idea that we would establish a relationship with all of those people. And we could, specify like, hey, this committee is gonna be most relevant for these CAP items. This is our point of contact. This is how often we should communicate with them. Like if they meet once a quarter, do we want to make sure we have a committee member at that meeting? Or can we just send something to be put on their agenda, to make sure they're aware? One of the challenges that I've had with sort of like being new on the committee is not knowing what the levers are necessarily and who is in charge of what. Like we're in a sort of more of an advisory role, like who does actually hold the power? How do we get to them? How do we bring the information that is most helpful to them and make sure they're aligned with us? And so this spreadsheet and what I'm hoping for from the rest of the committee is that we can start to either in this or something similar, fill this in so that when we get to a certain CAP item, we'd be like, oh, to do that, we need to talk to the Conservation Commission, the neighborhood association for that area, and the Planning and Sustainability Department, and maybe we should also ask Coast because they've got a bus stop near there. And we'd immediately be able to say like, oh, these are our point of contacts, this is their information, this is their meeting schedule, all of that. The stakeholder map page is hopefully once I've gotten more of that information about all of the different groups, is being able to sort of categorize out what these relationships will look like. So the level of interest a stakeholder has in a particular action versus the influence that they have on us and our goals. So, there might be some stakeholders you know, maybe some neighborhood associations just aren't that active. And, you know, even if we reached out to them, we wouldn't get anything, so we don't need to prioritize contact with them, but, you know, the city council, we always wanna be having an active working relationship with them. So being able to really clearly know where to put our limited resources. So I just wanted to hear thoughts, like, does this make sense to someone whose brain isn't mine? Are there people who'd be willing to help me sort of fill the details out and get, you know, hey, you don't have this nonprofit on there, but they're actually so involved, or this is the person you wanna talk to on this committee, that kind of stuff.
I think it's great. I think it's a way of being very systematic about something that is ad hoc, and the more ad hoc it is, sometimes the less effective it is. It's sort of like a structure to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And my other thought is that prioritizing the cap, I think, is really important, but there are other things the committee does that maybe are less directly linked to the cap. But I think starting with the cap, I think, would be really effective at the start.
It goes back to what Kate said earlier about our role, which is engagement with the community. And this is the kind of stuff that we need to be able to cultivate in order to engage more and more people. Because the more people we can reach, more ears we have, the bigger audiences, the more impact we can have.
Yeah, and I'd really like to, I mean, there are some things like, for example, when we eventually get to the point of hopefully deprioritizing single passenger vehicles, and instead having like more bikes and pedestrians, it's like, we don't have a lot of authority and decision-making power, so starting those relationships as early as possible. And also, there's a lot of folks on here, like, I don't know what they do or what their priorities are. So I don't know if they know what the cap is. So.
And some of those relationships are already there.
Right, yeah,
But they're at a really early stage, and I think having this tier helps really build on whatever is in place. Because there are some things where there are potential stakeholders that are not involved.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely missing things.
So I was thinking, I don't think he came up by name, but Monty does the social marketing.
Yeah.
City, right? So I would think we could work with him because we're all volunteers.
Yeah,
And he has a role, I mean, he does the city e-newsletter, which I'm sure you've seen. And a lot of like the city hall Facebook page and a lot of things I don't know that he does. It'd be cool to see the list. And that's stakeholder relationship management, SRM, okay.
yeah,
This list, how many of them are getting the e-newsletter and how can
Yeah.
we use the city newsletter to make some of our points? So in effect, using a city staff member to
Yeah, I mean,
promote
he's
some of our work.
very well connected, and even if he can't do it directly, I think he has a lot of connections in different neighborhoods and different nonprofits across the city that he could lend us their contact information.
I went to a meeting at the Chamber of Commerce,
Mhm.
what is it called?
Chamber
now?
Collaborative,
Yeah,
I call it
Chamber
Chamber of
Collaborative,
Commerce like
yes, yeah,
every
I
time.
do. And it was about housing and it was really great meeting. They didn't just pull in chamber members, they had a lot of people there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good connection.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd really love to get the Chamber Collaborative on board with the cap and like involved, but
Can you send at least just the list part to
Yes.
Kate? And Sophie could send it to us because I mean, you have an incredible amount of stakeholders on there already, but it would be nice just to have a few minutes, to your point, to look over the whole thing and say, oh, here's another one, or, you know.
And we probably could help with firming some things up, like UNH is a bit
Right.
open-ended, but
The
there's
Institute.
Steve Pesci that
Yeah.
Yeah.
does sustainability projects, and there's different institutes.
Do you have the Rotary Club on there?
I don't, but that is a good one. And my question to you, Kate, or I guess to the chairs as well, can it be a active document, or do I need to send like a static version and then everyone sends their edits?
I think that's, well,
Okay.
sure.
Sorry.
It's all good.
So dumb.
So I could see like work we're doing on the cap, looking at this list, just to think in mind, who could we get to advocate alongside us, or who would be interested in this, who would be against it? Kind of anticipating that, using this as a tool.
Yeah, especially for the things on the cap that are more like retrofitting individual houses.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, yeah, it's just neighborhood by neighborhood, who can we get connected to that like window dresser nonprofit? Put a flyer out, but obviously that is a undertaking, so trying to be efficient, because we all have lives, pretty much. Awesome, I will send out that static version.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
Lee? When you said, I don't know if anybody else is thinking like my mind. I love your exposure of what goes on inside your mind.
Oh, wonderful, thank you.
And, is that kind of what you do, kind of, it feels like this is the water you swim in? Is that
Yes,
accurate?
I do this for, I'm a sustainability business consultant, so I normally do this from the business angle of helping them become more sustainable and strategic with their sustainability. That tends to be a smaller stakeholder list than a whole city, so I didn't know if scaling it up would work as well. But both the program management and the strategic sustainability are my two things that I like, so,
Well, it felt powerful,
thank you.
useful, and a great example of what Effie said. What one of the best things of this committee is when each of us brings what we have to offer.
Well, it's that Venn diagram you're always talking about.
Yeah, right.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, so it's really,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. And I almost was saying, I think we're getting it out now, but I thought we have a little time. If there was just, I gave I don't know if this would be more useful or not, but if we said, I'm gonna set my time watch for 10 minutes, and you could ask this committee, particularly around transportation and SABRE, what could we fill in now, just so I could get a greater feel? Would that give me a feel for what you're doing, and would that be helpful, or would it be wait till you get feedback?
I think that what would be most personally helpful for filling this out is if I reached out to folks individually and met with you all, because I will have so many follow-up questions that I think that would be I did that with Kate earlier on, just to sort of be like, why do we keep talking about how we're structuring the meetings? And she said, we're very recently a standing committee, so I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I think I will make a note to myself to reach out to folks individually just to get a download, because even though I started in December, I'm still getting my feet under me.
Right.
A lot of information, a lot of things to cover.
Yes.
All right, so now that we've done A, B, C, anything else under C, or are we done with 4? Cap 5, committee action spreadsheet. 6, community budget request from committee. Or capital budget
Oh,
request from.
5.
5.
talk
first.
about. You've got in your packet, the action sheet that we've been working on. I'm not sure which one it's called. Summary, yeah. So I'm calling this summary format because I took a lot of columns out, I have to confess. I just needed more room to track what we were doing. And for the purposes of meeting with city council, I really felt like they didn't need to see all the columns we had in the past. And I also focused on the city council presentation because it's coming up and we have to decide today what will be in it next month. So the first 2 pages of what you were sent is really pertaining to that. And then other issues, I'm sorry, the first 2 pages are repeated and then with other actions, but we can walk through it and I think it will be clearer. So if we start at the top where you were, yeah, thank you, Kate. So some of this will look familiar and what I was looking for was things we were gonna highlight for the city council. So master plan issues or CIP requests. I think that's mostly what I highlighted on our list. So going to page 2, oh, that breaks differently, okay. Fred, do you mind if we use you as a guinea pig?
No,
Okay, so the 3rd item on the list, if you go back a page, sorry. It's okay. So I heard from Fred this afternoon, but I'm sorry, Fred, it was too late for me to do anything with this. But we would really like to see an EV charging plan. And this goes on to the next page too. The funds are already in the capital improvement plan. The city, we need the city to do an RFP to get an EV charging plan is my thought. But I'm not sure.
it doesn't have to be an RFP. I mean, you just could hire somebody or whatever. Well, maybe,
Okay.
whatever, but I just, yeah, to put some thought into
What,
where they would be needed, how we can best serve the community, who is underserved right now. And how can we, fill that gap? We have money to spend over the next few years and we want to make sure we spend it wisely.
so I think this item, because the funds are already there, we don't need to put a capital budget request in.
Right.
So, but we want to have it highlighted when we present to the city council.
Yeah.
So you'll see it again later.
Sure.
Josh isn't here to talk about the plan for the city fleet electrification, but he sent me a long email at 4:30. So I'm not sure I'm going to do it justice, but he sent the full proposal that he submitted last year that was turned down. But this year, there's the connection to the climate action plan. And so I think from what he wrote, I could take what he wrote and working with him, do a capital budget request.
We skipped the first 2. Are you going through?
Yeah, so those, I'm sorry, those 2 I thought of, could we back up, Kate? I'm sorry. As master plan issues, I mentioned that, Bill, but I didn't get into detail.
yeah,
But
no,
Is there any?
Yeah, the only thing.
We're waiting to hear about a feasibility study, but I didn't think
On the
on.
on the second one,
Yeah.
it's in the CIP, but I'm not sure when it'll be funded.
Sorry,
I'm not sure when or if it's been funded. It's in the CIP. That was one of the 2 projects that the committee got in at the last minute.
So I didn't think we'd put another CIP request in if it's in the CIP.
If it's in, it may be a question of funding it. 'Cause I think, as I remember, the way it's in is find state or federal funds to do it. And I talked to one of the council members
Yeah,
who
I
said
wish-
he thought it was in and funded, but it could be funded through the parking fund. So I think it's an open topic.
Okay, so if Josh were here, he could explain that.
Yeah.
Or
Or we could look at the CIP.
stand completely, it's in the CIP, but if it was like federal funding and the funding disappeared, then the funding's not there.
Yeah.
So do you want to follow up on that one? Because we need to get our CIP requests soon.
Yeah. So we
And
could
the third
request
one-
moving it up or funding it from alternative sources like
Yes,
the parking fund.
Exactly, yeah. And the first issue, I didn't mean to skip that because that's really important, expansion of public transportation. But I didn't think there was a CIP request related to that.
Yeah, I don't know, because right now Coast is cutting back their service. They eliminated
know.
the 42 and cut back the hours of the main Portsmouth services. So I don't know if any council members are proposing adding back new funds. I mean, I guess that's something to find out about,
Okay.
because they may want to add.
So this committee could initiate a CIP request saying to make up lost coast funds or
So,
something.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll have to follow up on that. And the capital deadlines are imminent. For the capital budget. Citizen requests by September 20th. But we need to tell the city council August 18th what we're gonna be requesting. Kind of give them a heads up. So I guess that's our, and Josh needs it August 10th. For the 18th meeting. So that's, we keep backing up on the date. So our deadline is really, we'll have to talk before August 10th.
The 18th meeting is a budget meeting or the city council meeting?
City
and a
council.
report from this committee.
Yep, and that's another agenda item tonight is what I'm proposing. Jess and I met, came up with a list of things we could present. So, so the first two, Bill, you're gonna follow up on the EV charging plan. We need to follow up, but not a capital request. The electrification of the city fleet, the fourth one, we're gonna submit again for capital funds. And then Nancy Clayberg and the electrified school bus fleet, I listed as a master plan issue. Partly because it's big money and we haven't done the research yet. So this next one listed for the planning department. This is as a result of the Portsmouth Middle School solar proposals. I think what we need is a capital budget proposal to inventory all city sites that are potential for solar installation. So all public buildings, all those flat roofs, schools, parking lots, transfer station, community campus, all these places, and have someone really do an inventory where they can evaluate the sites and say, well, this one's good, we could get 1 megawatt off this, or this one, well, not so good. Because that really takes some expertise. So I guess we'll have to hear back from the planning department, what they think of that, what they think of the sustainability committee putting something like this forward.
I think that's a great idea, but isn't that very similar to the idea of doing like a suitability analysis? We already talked
A
about,
city, what?
like doing the what we mentioned earlier about just looking at all municipal for feasibility. So, didn't we just talk about that?
Looking at all city buildings for, this is for solar.
For solar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned it when we were looking at the Portsmouth Middle School.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so this is it.
Okay,
Yeah,
same.
yeah, okay. And someone, Josh said he wasn't sure whether the city would have looked at an inventory before going to the Jones Ave location for an RFP. So, I mean, if it's done, obviously, we'll hear back when we put the request in, but because there's only really 2 city solar projects, the Madbury Water Treatment Plant and the high school, right?
Middle
I
school
know.
had something where they were going to have gardens.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
solar?
I think they were trying to raise money at one point.
I know Chris Rose thought about trying to get a grant to put solar on the roof of the middle school
And
to
they
see if he
wanted-
could use it in his classroom, but I think he had started to develop a relationship with one of the solar companies and that kind of fell apart. So I think the project fell apart.
Okay, I knew there was something going on over there. There's also one to put on right outside here on City Hall, so.
But they're not.
It'd be interesting to find out what they've already done, because
Yeah, I don't see any
Yeah.
solar cells.
you know.
Yeah.
On the planning committee, Peter's there, but are there people who have an expertise in solar energy?
Internal, like
Yeah,
city staff,
internally.
not that I know of,
Okay, so that might be good. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's a great idea.
The next one is listed with Josh. Now, this was kind of complicated, but he said there's litigation at the state level about stormwater fees. Dover set one up and I think it was, what's the word, desisted, I don't know what, stopped legally. So there's statewide issues with that now. So I think we could put that in as a master plan issue, but we're not gonna be looking for any capital money. Maxon has some experience with water leaks, water loss, but I don't see, there was nothing to tie it to in the cap. So for now, I'm just tracking it and it's a master plan issue. I think it's something the city could be interested in, but not yet. And then one of the items that I thought was important was a capital budget request to update the greenhouse gas inventory. So I looked up a few of the guidelines, a group called C40, which is municipalities across the country, the EPA and Global Covenant of Mayors. And I picked every 3 years. So for us, it's already been 4 years. So I put in 100,000 for a new greenhouse gas inventory, but that was a guess. So that would be a capital budget request. And then the zero waste plan.
I will just say Rayanne's kind of done the lion's share of the work so far, but I think we have more research to do and things. So my hope is that maybe that's something we can submit next year once we've kind of really had a chance to dive into more communities. How's that sound to you? I mean, you and I haven't really had a chance to talk about this, but
That works for
I
me.
feel like there's more research to be done, and at least for my end, to really get a handle on what other towns are doing and what cost looks like
And I
Yeah.
think that's great. I mean, there's no reason they all have to be in this capital budget, because we want to have the research and the authority to go in and say, this is what we want to do. I was thinking when you were talking about composting, oh, we didn't put a request in for a pilot project for composting at a multi-unit housing space. But, we're not doing everything this year. So that's in the future perhaps.
Agree. I will add to that. I have reached out to a small handful of neighboring towns of like size and geography. And have not heard back from anyone that has affirmatively created and successfully executed a zero waste plan. I think it's a new concept and a large undertaking for the people that I've interacted with. So I'm okay with delaying this another year. Yeah, I think we have some work ahead of us.
Right. And if it's okay with the committee, I won't go through all the items in the full list, which is the second half of the table, because I think we need to focus on the city council presentation. But if anyone has questions on anything so far, or wants to change something, we can always do that.
I'm thinking about is the greenhouse gas inventory. 100,000 sounds like a lot, but maybe it would be good to put in that strategy that we do it every 3 years for the next 9 years, like set so that we have more than one coming.
So the 100,000 would cover 3 years?
I have no idea. Well,
Yeah.
before it was John and I doing it, volunteering, and then
Yeah.
before that, the UNH students were
Yeah.
like $6,000
Yeah.
for like an internship for the summer, so 100,000 sounds like a lot, but maybe for a professional doing it,
Yeah.
it's not. Or we could continue doing a UNH fellowship.
So when I put my capital budget requests in last year, it was kind of a learning learning by doing. And the process is you have to have your submission in by a deadline, and it's a little bit kludgy to enter the budget requests because like it says, what location is it for? If it's citywide, it kind of doesn't work. And there were things that made it difficult. but you get a reply from the planning department. Why it's a good idea, or if it's already funded, or if $100,000 is
Is it the
crazy.
planning department or is it part of the accounting office?
I think it's finance.
And it's,
The ones I got were from planning, but other ones may be depending on the expertise of the city staff. So we can change 100,000, I'm very thinking. If you want to talk it over with Peter and other people in the department.
I think that's something we definitely need to like really nail down funding for because we need it to track our emissions, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we can figure out a number, but I'll ask Peter what he thinks.
it's essential monitoring of progress.
Yeah.
So I used these 2 pages to create what is our, well, the capital budget requests from the committee are what we just talked about in this spreadsheet. So Bill is going to follow up on a couple of the transportation items, and there's a few other things here.
Was the bike pedestrian one in there somewhere?
I think it was the first one.
Those first two, there was a third one that is in the CIP.
Microtransit study.
No, there's one to implement priorities in the new bike pedestrian plan. It was in the table before.
Yeah,
First, on the previous page,
it's
very
down
top,
below.
back page.
Yeah,
Very top.
Yeah, there it is.
but it was in the CIP
Yeah,
already.
right.
So I didn't think that that was one we had
Right.
to.
Yeah, unless we have perspectives on the priorities. I mean, generally, that plan's not final yet, but it has priorities, and I think we support advancing the priorities, and there's.
So I have,
Say, like, we
Yeah.
support the existing funding.
Yeah, and.
so I haven't seen the
Yeah.
plan, you know, if you wanted
Yeah, I
to.
think it's up in draft, probably on the
It is.
planning website,
Yeah,
planning and sustainability.
so it's hard to keep track of all this if you want to come forward with something for that.
Well, it probably would be just some text and recommendation from the committee supporting that particular one because they have to compete. for
Well, you
funding.
know that the committee did, whoever was responsible for it, did a public outreach. They had
Yeah.
a session here and they got input on priorities and everything.
Yeah, and the input is reflected in the priorities and we or some of us managed to get the cap into it, I think is relevant.
So,
Because obviously the process is working, in other words.
It's working. I think there's funding in it and I think maybe a useful thing for us is just to add our support as the committee.
Yep, agreed.
For that, we're not proposing a new project, but we're supporting that.
Yep, yep.
so you
Project.
want to see that back in with the capital budget request?
No, it wouldn't be a new
No.
capital budget request, but it would be a comment from the committee supporting advancing that.
Okay,
And
well,
I
we
think the
could-
research for that could be just seeing what's in the last
Okay.
CIP because now they're doing the next CIP.
Okay, so what I have for submitting to the CIP is the one from Josh on electrifying the city fleet. The inventory of city sites for solar.
So you're only
And,
looking at
excuse me.
completely new items
Yeah,
to add
and
as
then
opposed to.
I'm almost through the list. 100,000 for the greenhouse gas inventory. So that's only 3. Okay, yeah, Bill?
Yeah, but can't we offer input to the CIP, including, let's say, the microtransit, which is on but not funded? And that it be funded?
Yeah, I don't know about that. So
Oh,
we're
that's-
gonna do that when we
Well-
come to the, see, we have an opportunity to kind of prime the city council for what we're gonna be saying about the CIP. So those things, those requests, I wanted to get them lined up. But if there's other things we should be supporting, yeah, we should, yeah, add them. But I thought having 3 was a reasonable number and that, it turns out that's what we talked
Are we
about.
talking about the presentation to the city council or are we talking about new requests for the CIP? The CIP,
We're talking about CIP requests. They're not all new because the one for fleet electrification is a resubmit with
right?
further material. It might be helpful if we go to the city council presentation.
Just trying to find the feasibility study that How much it's funded.
Yeah,
Was it the bike ped feasibility study or was it?
no,
This is the micro transit.
yeah, okay,
Oh, okay.
Hundred
Yes,
thousand,
right.
FY 26.
good. But it says, see, it says Fed state,
Hmm.
and there's no Fed state money.
Right. So maybe we say to switch it to.
So
Or,
what number is this, Kate?
That was
Cause I'll,
BI 26 PL 24A.
Her name. I understand there's logic behind it.
Representative.
It's all, yeah.
and
refers
this
to
is
something,
the
but my goodness.
26 to 31 capital.
Yeah, the one that was just adopted.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that bill, I would say, is another one for resubmit,
right,
okay?
That's my question.
I think that the CIP said staff start doing early research on this. And that's, I don't know if that's happened, but it could happen right away with the staff and maybe the committee supporting the staff for that, but I think it should be funded.
And it might be coming from other directions too, supporting this.
Right.
So if we can go to the PowerPoint now. This is a draft presentation, so it's number 7 on the agenda, Bert.
Okay,
Jess and I met and talked about a very short presentation, because that's what Josh said would work best. And he suggested either Jess or I do the presentation, but if anyone wants to step up and volunteer, I'd be happy to donate my place. And he also said people could come and talk during the public comment section of the meeting. So if you want to do that, it's August 18th.
What time is it? Time is it?
7 p.m.
7.
to, goes pretty late, but the
It'll
first
be-
hour's public hearing-ish, first half hour before the reports. And then it'll probably jump into presentations between like 7:30 and like 10:30. You're lucky.
No, okay.
So we could go to the next slide. So for context, I think we just want to remind the city council that as of October 2023, we became a standing committee, and then the ordinance was updated in January this year, and this is what the ordinance says our roles are, just to acclimate them. And then next slide, accomplishments, and this I would really love feedback from the group. I felt like the accomplishments had to rise to a certain level, but maybe people think these are too trivial or we should be listing other things. And I really would welcome feedback, and you don't have to do it right now if you can't think of it. If you think of it later, feel free to email Jess and me.
I really like the sustainability fair shout out. I think that's really impressive. Also having new committee members. I feel like the expanded student representation is a bit confusing.
I'm sorry, the what?
The expanded student representation is a bit confusing because we don't have
Okay,
actual students here. We are welcoming them, but they're not arriving.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, did we have an increase on Bright Action folks? Was that,
I
are
don't
we
know.
up to like 80,
We're up to 94.
up to 94? That might be an additional.
We could do it by percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
12.5%.
Or continued it for a second year.
That's true, right.
And then to that point, I think quantifying things is really helpful to provide color. So I would actually note how many community conversations have occurred.
With,
Good
if
point,
there's time, just listing them, that's just another sub bullet.
It's only recently that we've played that role as a committee. So I don't know.
Actually, starting in, May of 2024.
Okay.
I think that the committee has always supported the community conversations, but I think we've co-sponsored the committee and the Portsmouth Climate Action. I don't know, I mean, can we say CCAN and PCA? It seems like sometimes PCA sort of disappears, even though it's doing the lifting on this stuff.
Right, right.
But I think was it since May? I mean, that formally this committee has co-sponsored the community
May of this year?
conversations.
Maybe this year,
No,
maybe 2025 or
last year.
2021, okay.
So for example, the transportation one in December.
Okay. And Effie, it's, you should write Seacoast CAN.
Okay.
It's not really a 6-letter acronym, it's Seacoast.
I was just gonna ask, should I spell out the whole acronym?
No, just Seacoast CAN is fine.
We have /PCA.
Yep.
Should I add Portsmouth Climate Action? Because PCA, they won't know.
Yeah, you should spell it out.
Thinking Portsmouth Christian Academy. I get really confused at this
I'm sorry,
conversation.
Seacoast can?
Seacoast CAN.
Okay.
CAN's an acronym, Seacoast is not.
But if, when you're going to sleep tonight, you think of something else, email me. Don't call. But that's great. We can make those changes. And then I thought we could move to the climate action plan because this council was here through this whole thing and passed the climate action plan a year ago. So this talks a little bit like how we prioritized what actions we would follow up on.
Maybe carbon reduction or resilience impact. We're not neutral on carbon. We want less.
Right.
The possibility of leverage with current city priorities, I wonder if alignment might. Are we? Like, is the point that we're aligning ourselves with current city priorities, or is the point that we are trying to take advantage of?
Take advantage,
Okay,
yes.
I think
Yeah,
it's both, you know, it's sort of like align first, leverage second, but I think we put a lot of work into aligning the climate plan, let's say with housing or with transportation.
Should I say alignment and leverage?
Yeah.
I also, this is going back slightly, but on the accomplishments page, I don't know if it's necessarily an accomplishment, but it'd be cool to have something demonstrate that we gave feedback to the state for their climate action plan, like we're going beyond
Yeah.
Portsmouth.
That we had the lead come
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
us and we've participated in their working groups. And
100%.
they have definitely benefited from the cap.
Yeah,
The state used us as a model.
yeah, that should be celebrated.
They would love to have a state version of our cap. I mean, there are
Me too.
a lot. Yes. Correct.
I would put potential for co-benefits.
Oh, good, yeah.
That's good. I mean, by surfacing the co-benefits, that's really what happens when you apply a sustainability filter.
Mhm.
Start thinking about
Sure.
housing implications
Yeah.
of alternative transportation.
Let's go to the next slide. And you have all these slides. You got them with your agenda, so you can look at them and again, contact me the next next week.
I think it would be good to align, if we end up saying anything in the public comment period, to try to align the slides with the comment period so the public comments can be supporting what is in the slides.
I didn't get that, I'm sorry.
The public comments, I mean, if Josh said
Yeah, that,
that in addition to a short amount of time for the presentation,
Right.
that committee members could also make comments during the public period, it should be in support of this presentation.
Yeah.
Strategy.
Might be particular issues.
Yep.
That you choose to focus on. Fred, I don't know if you want to say anything about what happened at the planning board meeting about solar.
We worked with them to try to come up with a amended solar zoning ordinance. And it was reviewed at the planning board last Thursday, a week ago. And it got hung up in debate about some details in the language. And one of the big issues was that the ordinance talks about rooftop solar and freestanding solar. And there was a question about, okay, so if you build a roof over a parking garage and put solar on it, is that considered rooftop or is it freestanding? And they got all down a rat's hole about that one. So they wanted the planning committee to go back and work the language, make it more clear about what they're talking about, so that they can review it again next month. There was no
Yeah.
objection to having a zone, you know, amended solar ordinance.
Good.
It's just that they want to make sure the language is right before they approve it.
Right. And Brianna, do you think it's okay to say initial research about best practices for municipal zero waste plan? Just in.
I think that's appropriate, yes.
Okay, good. I don't want to say anything that makes anyone uncomfortable with where they're at.
We include transportation.
Yeah, what do you want to say? Yeah,
I don't know, I'll think of something, but I mean, they're on the list.
yeah,
Actions. Microtransit, bike ped plan and
I put
support for
public
public
transit
transit.
under master plan issues, but we can have it here for,
Yeah.
you know,
Please.
so, I'm sorry, what do you want to say? Or you can email me too, whatever.
Sustainable transportation. Topics like microtransit shuttle and support for bike ped plan and expansion of public transit. Those are three cap items that
Well,
we're working on.
Support for public transit.
Expansion. Maybe it would just be one item that covers the three priorities that are in the
Okay,
cap.
okay. Good. Is there anything else we're missing here for? Because there are the capital proposals in the next slide and then master plan.
I'm just wondering, the municipal zero waste plan, is that for no waste from city services, or is it citywide, like community? Citywide,
Developing a citywide zero waste plan.
Yeah, I think in the,
it might be good to phrase that as citywide, cause I think there are towns out
Okay.
there that have municipal zero waste plans that are just focused on like city hall waste, DPW waste.
that's a
like,
good point, yeah.
I think
Because
that.
citywide is a lot more impressive too.
Yeah, I think it just sounds like it's a bigger, well, it is a bigger action item.
Yeah.
Get the whole community on board.
So the second from the bottom is italicized, because I wanted to make sure that was okay with the planning department.
Charging plan. Is that a current CIP item?
I'm sorry?
Is it a current CIP item? EV charging?
Yes.
My understanding is that there's CIP item for EV charging.
Per install.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I would think so.
The idea would be to use some of that fund, the fund from the
I don't
CIP.
think it's necessarily in our department. It's, I think that's a
Public
public
Works.
works.
Maybe instead of saying how to do it here, just say
Yeah.
develop a EV charging plan. And they can
Well-
figure out how to do it.
Or work with the city.
Support
With the city
development of,
We're not.
because we're not gonna do an EV charging plan, right?
Yeah, okay. So work with city departments to develop a C.
Yeah, maybe do, city department.
Support city departments developing. good. So the next one is about CIP, and we want to add the one from transportation, which is
Microtransit study.
yeah,
Microtransit shuttle feasibility study. I think the way that's worded in the cap is do the feasibility study and then depending on the results of the feasibility study, longer term, do a pilot.
Okay.
If it,
Well, this is semantics for you, but in the budget item where it's listed as federal or state money, it's just called microtransit study.
it should be in the CIP,
Are we
I
gonna
think.
muddle the waters if we add those extra
Yeah,
words?
no, they need to be there because I think probably the most promising thing is the shuttle, and that's what Kate Cook and Josh Denton put into the CIP last year.
See the description right there.
Yeah, the shuttle loop is in the description, but it's not in the title.
Yeah, I'd just be a slash, like microtransit slash shuttle. Because microtransit can sometimes be a bit of a target. Most of the interest has been in the shuttle.
so we'll have 4 capital requests.
Good.
Good with that?
I think just the description of update the greenhouse gas inventory, if you can add in something that's like continually update or.
Yeah.
Periodically or?
Yeah,
Create
it's good, yeah.
a three,
Update and
or just-
continue to,
I mean,
make it
that,
very obvious, like create a 3-year update plan for the next 9 years, like.
I mean, that if it's a 3-year, it can be
Fine.
based on best practices.
Mhm.
Another.
yeah, there was no agreement on what the best practice was, so I just. put
Maybe, but
3
depend
different-
on how much money they have.
Yeah, yeah,
In-house or
a
in-house.
lot of cities.
Yeah.
Expertise.
So then, last slide. Master plan issues. And I just didn't want to lose track of the reduction of water loss. I think that's a big issue, but Maxon hasn't been here for a while to talk about it. I need to learn more. So is there any slide we could do without, so we have an even number of slides? Is someone really good at PowerPoint? I mean, I don't know that we have to put in the roles of the sustainability committee, for example.
I think
Always
it's
helps.
good to have that context.
I ask myself a question, if I'm the city council
Yeah,
and I'm saying, why are we here? What do we want them to take away? What results do we want them to take
Yeah.
away?
so I'd say I want them to know what's coming in our capital budget requests and our master plan issues. 2 big things.
Okay, so I think right up front, I would say, if in the introduction, I'm just playing, I don't have good wording, but something that we're a new committee. And we want you to get to know us as a resource.
Yeah.
To advance sustainability from a system-wide point of view for the city.
Yeah,
So I think, let them know, and so to get to know us, we're gonna give you specifics that we want you to walk away with, because these are the current thing in the system that we're looking at. And this is where our focus is right now, and we're open as your interests come
Mhm.
to incorporate so that we're now establishing a connection. So
Right.
you'll walk away tonight knowing what we're doing,
Mhm.
how we're doing what, and how we can interact.
Yes.
Something,
What we're working on CAP implementation. We've
Yeah.
got slides on that. We're working on connecting sustainability to other initiatives like the master plan
Yeah.
and bringing it up in other city priorities.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to be a slide, but I would
Yeah.
set that would be helpful to me, I think.
Yeah. Good.
That may be just part of the opening,
Yeah,
not a
right.
new slide, but just to tie together what's coming, so
Yeah,
it holds together.
yeah. Good.
I have one suggestion for this slide. Maybe changing master plan issues to master plan opportunities. And then that first sentence, say these priorities from the climate action plan.
So our success will be connecting the capital master plan, and that's not just big picture, it's some
Yeah, it
specifics as well.
seems, Bill, I put everything on this slide instead of working it through the capital requests and other opportunities. So it's good we got that fixed. Right,
Great, thanks, Duffy.
sure. Well, thank you all.
Oh, how long do you have to do this? 5 minutes?
Josh said 5 to 10, so.
Definitely need fewer slides then.
Sorry.
Definitely need fewer slides then.
So I
Spend
just,
time on the slides that are really
Yeah.
important.
we'll have to do some run throughs. Are we authorized to reduce the presentation based on how long it takes?
I would say I admire the work you put in and what you've done so far. And whatever you do, you could take 1 or 2 slides and
Yeah.
you're gonna accomplish what I think is important. You're making us present, you're bringing sustainability present, and you're bringing concrete things.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Kate raised a good point about whether we want to vote on the CIP proposals. That's, what's the time frame again for that?
August 10th.
No,
That Josh needs it.
Oh, that's for the city council.
Okay.
Yeah.
This,
that's a good date.
but if we wanna submit as a committee,
Oh,
I
here.
think they did a different structure where you don't have to do it as a citizen request now. We can submit as committee.
Because our next meeting is like September 20,
Our
no,
next one is
August
20.
28th. And then the citizen requests are due September 20th. So we could vote at the next meeting, but if I'm priming the city council to know what we're submitting, we're really making a commitment now. So are we okay with the requests as we just walked through, or are we missing anything? Or I know some of them will wait another year and that's fine.
I think it's
Tori's working on one too, that will be for next year.
I think it's fine to have a inclusive and representative list, because I think we'll have to add the text for why we're recommending it, and then the
Right.
city staff
Yeah,
does its own review, and
right, yeah,
you know, some
yeah,
things
it's a
will,
process.
some things won't, some things will be delayed.
Yeah, it'd probably be good to do a formal vote to approve.
So does anyone want to make a proposal that we
That
submit
we've
the 4?
approved the full capital improvement request on your presentation.
Seconded.
in favor,
All right,
opposed. Motion.
I wasn't sure if we had to rule.
I did hate you.
We all left you.
I'm aware we're moving right along.
Thumbs up.
Kate, it would be useful maybe if you could send us an email with some of these timelines, because they get a little,
Yeah, they haven't
the
officially
city
been.
council, what's the
posted.
date for Josh, what's the citizens CIP, what's our CIP?
It's tricky because nothing's on the website yet, but we at least know the citizen one. So if we missed the first one, we have that to go back on, but. So Josh will need anything at
For
least
city council by
8
August
yeah,
10th.
8 days before the meeting.
Maybe an email would be good, because then the people who aren't at the meeting would.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if anyone has changes to the PowerPoint, let me know. And I don't think it's necessary to give the city council anything like this. Because it's kind of summarized in the PowerPoint.
Although Josh did say that council members tend to read things that are in the packet and the presentation shouldn't be short, that they.
So
I
we
mean,
could do
we
the
might-
first page.
Yeah, and
Front and
if
back.
we're trying to cut down on slides, taking out like the accomplishments slide, and cap criteria slide and putting those in the packet. So we just say like,
Oh, yeah,
here are our priorities, thank you for your time,
yeah.
and then they, further detailed available with reasoning.
Or like on that slide on accomplishments, you could keep that at a high level, and in the packet, it could have the examples of the community conversations and not take the time.
Yeah.
Examples.
Good.
So,
I apologize, that was kind of a combination of the cap action spreadsheet, the capital budget request, and the city council presentation.
Forgiven.
Thank you, because you all did so well.
anything else that you need at this point from us?
No, what Jess and I are gonna do next is time it and decide what's in, what's out. We have good advice from this group, so we'll be all set.
Good.
Do you feel like you need like a special meeting or a working group or any other meetings scheduled?
Before the city council.
Yeah, with all of us or?
I don't think that's necessary to say.
Circulate a final draft for comment,
Oh, for comment,
for review.
that means it pushes it back a few more days, so I'm not sure. But I guess we could do that. Today is July. Before,
Yes, I've warmed up. Would you like this? weekend?
Okay, at the moment, thank you.
we will do our best to get it out for review,
All right,
but we'll need a quick turnaround, I think.
good, other business? And we're almost ready for to close,
There's a list under other business.
okay, decision, I thought, A. Decision regarding speaker regarding EV school issues, okay.
So Bill had heard a speaker from Student Transportation of America, and I didn't think at the last meeting there was a decision made whether to invite that speaker or over Zoom or whatever to this meeting. I would like it. I think it'd be helpful for Nancy's work. Do we want to do that?
Could
But
we,
she's a very good speaker. We could give her 10 minutes, for example.
Yeah, okay.
Because her examples that she gave for the New Hampshire cap were quite useful because they were New Hampshire examples, even though it's a
Right.
national association.
could we, get, I know Nancy comes to these meetings, but could we get other school board or other relevant, folks in the room for that? Or is that would be too much planning?
It'll be recorded,
Okay.
so if people want access to it, I think it's still early days, but I don't know if Lee Hudson would be able to watch it. He was our former school board representative on the committee.
For the item 8, the New Hampshire cap Department of Environmental Services has two more on Zoom meetings as they are finalizing the report. I think, Kate, did you send that out already? Maybe I forwarded that to you. Their invitation is sort of messed up. It says 10th and the 11th
Oh,
of September.
Yeah,
And if you hit the button, it takes you, instead of to Tuesday, Wednesday, it takes you to Wednesday, Thursday. I'm sure they have fixed it by now. I sent them comments on that, but maybe I'll forward that to you and you
Yeah,
can
I can resend
circulate it. They're talking about the grant that New Hampshire is participating in with other New England states on, I think it's heat pumps, and then they're talking about the final input that they've received for the New Hampshire cap. And they had, it was like 6 or 7 sectoral working, so they'll be summarizing that. I think it's an hour and a half meeting on 2 different days. One is in the evening. I mean, I think that the dates that they had listed that are probably what they really want are the September 10th, 5:30 to 6:45. September 11th, 12 to 1:15 PM. So, and I'll send Kate that invitation. So if you want to register for it, you can do it that way.
And essentially, they're gonna be similar meetings,
same.
just different opportunities for people to attend.
Just, yeah, it's the same content.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see how the mind works. That was a great example. Do we want to get somebody else's? I love it. You guys are training.
That's my question.
You're training me well. Thank you. Okay, any other item there under other business? Cause,
Future postcard.
okay, yeah.
So that's this.
Do we need to
Oh,
vote
sorry.
on having a speaker? I'm sorry.
Close that out.
Yeah, I don't, we all sort of seem to agree, but does that need to be something formal and somebody takes the lead on getting the speaker here, or what's next action steps around that?
I think if this group has agreed,
Okay.
we don't need a vote, but if anyone wants a vote, we can do a vote.
I thought, and Bill, you're the one who's contacting.
I just had suggested the speaker, if you want me to try to follow up to invite.
That'd be
Do
great.
you want,
That's what I thought.
I mean, you've been more involved in the EV buses or Nancy?
Or-
I don't think Nancy has any relationship with the STA person.
The gentleman knows her name.
Okay,
But
so,
if you-
so do we have a specific date? Like September meeting?
The September meeting, I think, is pretty open.
Yeah,
We will have to have CIP stuff in by then, right? Kate, well, we won't need to work on that in September.
Right.
So,
maybe offer September or October.
yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds
that'd be great.
reasonable. Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
So this is the climate future postcard. I'll pass it around. I just thought it was great. I was in the library and their rack of materials had it. And I tried the QR code and it worked. Plus, if the QR code didn't work, there's the full URL there. So I loved the postcard and I wanted to make sure everybody saw it.
That's one.
So then, I'll just zoom.
There's several.
How is that being distributed?
Randomly.
Sustainability, yeah.
Bars,
Sustainability
bars.
bar. I left in a bar. We actually had 350 NH group went out and went door to door last fall for a couple days and distributed like 600 of them.
Should I include it in the city council packet?
I don't know, because technically they didn't do it under 350 NH, they kind of just
Yeah,
did it as a
okay.
favor,
Yeah,
but
you could bring some with me.
yeah, I was gonna, since I had a stack of them down here, I was gonna leave a stack in the
Good.
council chambers.
So great work. I think Kate was involved in that.
Yes, yes,
Yes, thank you.
my Canva design.
Yeah.
Way too long.
And then the minutes template, I'll pass this around. The thing is, not everybody has Word. So I don't know how to get this out and make it useful. It was sent out with the agenda
Yeah.
last week, so you all saw it. But the idea is we don't want the minutes to be a heavy lift for any committee member. And the recordings are available. So, and there's some things, committee members with excused absence, it really helps if we list them out separately. Because we have, well, probably Kate will probably have to count them up at the end of the year. So if we pull them out, it just makes it easier. And then the city committee member, that's Kate, represent,
Yeah, Peter.
yeah, Peter or Kate, one or the other to get the quorum, should be listed with committee members, so. But I'll just pass this around for people to see.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't have a resolution for it except to say, you know, whatever you're using, if you're using notes or some other word processing, just to try and follow that format. And then the other thing I was going to ask, when you send the minutes in, could you send them to me and Jess and Kate? Because believe it or not, Jess and I meet frequently between this meeting. And it's very helpful to
I
have
will
the
be back in
notes.
2 minutes while you're still talking.
Okay, it's very helpful to have the notes, like, you know, items for follow-up that I didn't quite get written down, or, you know, just issues that we need to bring up on the next agenda, whatever. And I don't want to put pressure on people, but it would be really great if someone's doing the minutes, if they could get them to us at the same time as Kate, and preferably earlier in the month than later. And the August meeting, I was just gonna say that it's an important meeting because that's when we're gonna be going over the CIP requests that the committee's making. I don't know how many people tonight are planning to come. I'm not gonna be away, so I'm coming.
On August 28th,
The date's August 28th.
may not.
Yeah.
TBD, but might be able to come on Zoom.
Same for me.
I'll be here.
But that's the 28th is after the council meeting is the 18th.
Right.
The CIP is what's.
Right, yeah. Well, that's good. Well, Bert's not here to say, do we have a motion to adjourn?
One other quick other business item, since we talked about the parking proposal for free parking, extra 15 minutes. Residents, the city council met last week on that and it was voted down.
Yeah.
So the first reading, it passed 5-4, the second reading, it lost 6-3. Tyler and I both spoke. One of us a bit more diplomatically than the other one, but I think the bigger problem issues were raised, I think, by the city parking manager on costs and I think the logistics of it and the app, and I think that all added up to enough concern to either reconsider or not. But we did raise the sustainability
And did
issues.
Josh speak to this as well?
No.
No. Huh.
He didn't.
So he saw which way it was gonna roll.
I think that's true. And what they ended up doing was splitting it between the 15 minutes for residents and parking incentives for veterans. And so they split it into two instead of one. And Josh was the maker of the split, and that was for the veterans was passed.
So the veteran, oh yeah, they have a different license plate with the V.
Yeah.
Oh, great. It was a good discussion.
It's a good discussion.
I meant what we had here. I didn't hear the city council.
Most of the meeting talking about ICE,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
very interesting public comments.
So we got through all the other business while you were gone.
Well, I'm glad I should leave more frequently. I
And
know,
Bill brought up about the parking issue that we discussed last month.
good.
Yeah.
Good. So, if there's no other business, then we can move that the meeting's closed and we can do our,
So moved.
all right, all in favor of closing this meeting, make an appropriate gesture.